M&K Exotics presents Not Another Reptile Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Corey. Hey, Austin.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
I am so glad, Austin. We got a surprise guest host today. And I was like, man, it's it. That's my boy. That's my boy who stood me up.
Oh, come on now.
I'm not going to let you live that down, sir.
Trust me, I believe you.
And Corey from Hydra Flux, how are you, sir?
Doing pretty good. I was stressing out a bit after watching a little bit of Brian Gundy and his 30 minutes of trying to join the podcast. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I need to know what software you're using because I don't want to be that. But it turned out good. Love that guy, though. I was so stoked to see you guys had him on the show.
Yes, he is. I would have him back a million times. He's such a good guy. And honestly, he sends me memes almost every day. And it's so neat to have somebody like that send you stuff. You're like, oh, wow, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
I feel it.
So we're going to do some shout outs real quick. Mr. Sammy, how are you doing, sir? Sammy invited me to go to the Super Show in California next week.
Man, that's awesome.
I'm loading up and heading out. We're going to have an amazing time. We're going to work on his Husbandry Pro and all kinds of goodies. So,
yeah, Sammy's a real one for that one.
Yes. Hey, Stan, how are you doing, bud? Let's see. This must be somebody you know, Corey. Sincerely Late.
They got a mask on. Oh, that's my buddy Martin, I think.
There you go.
He's not a snake guy, too, so that's cool.
Oh, nice. Oh, here's this slacker. Balls deep reptiles, baby. Howdy, Chris. How's it going, man? Hey, James. How's it going? All right. Well, that's all the shout outs we have right now. I'm trying to get through a couple things here, and we'll start some questions. I got to hide the comment first. Y'all, I'm doing this show without my glasses, so I actually went in today and put in all of my questions, which I've needed to do for such a long time. So let's start. Is this the first podcast you've ever been on?
Well, before I answer that, when you said doing it without your glasses, there was 2 years ago, I had my eyes dilated just for like some sort of an eye test. Oh, yes. And, usually they have somebody like pick you up or something. And with that, I just thought, my pupils are going to be big. I didn't realize it messes with your vision. And that was back when I lived in Sacramento, California. And there were certain parts I didn't want to be in. I mean, I guess that applies to every city. And I'm just driving and I'm holding the phone out and I'm trying to look at the map, but I have to hold it as far away from my face as possible to even read it. That was terrifying.
Yes.
Yeah, I can only imagine out in that traffic.
Yeah. It was my first time having my eyes dilated, so I had no idea what I was getting into. And that was, I'll never do that again. I'll get a ride.
Oh, you have a friend here. I spelled my name so Americans can pronounce it. Aaron?
Yep. Aaron Kingston. He's actually I don't know if it'll come up later, but he's actually one of the first people that really brought me under his wing and showed me a lot of things. And yeah, real good guy, but we'll probably get to him. As for the podcast, this is definitely the first podcast I've ever done. But I've been looking forward to getting into this. We started up the YouTube channel and yeah, with taking care of the animals or doing the videos, I was like, all right, I'm going to do the animals, but I made it a point that this year was going to be the year that I'm going to start releasing a lot more videos.
Yeah. And podcasts are really good to go on to get your name out there and meet new people in the industry. There's so many good people. Yes, there's a couple of duds, but they'll take care of themselves, right?
For the most part, what I love, that's probably the aspect I think I love most about this is getting to meet new people and just nerding out about genetics and
Yes.
I don't know, like trying to unlock what's the next thing that we can do in this hobby. And there's just so many good people out there. I find that when I go to a show now, I can't even make it through the floor because I spend, half an hour to an hour with like each person that I'm like, oh, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. So tell me about that project we've been texting about. And did you bring an animal so that I can see it? And it's crazy.
Right. Yeah. I do the same thing. I love nerding out about the genetics. I can sit all day and just think about, hey, this, I have this snake. What should I get to go with this snake? Because I already have my pairings made. But then I get to thinking, but if I do this. Oh, did I script? No, I didn't script. How long have you been in the industry?
Okay, so I've had snakes for a while, off and on. It was just a normal ball python, corn snake. And for the longest time, I was out in California, and so I was in apartments or like with roommates, and I stumbled on Brian Barczyk. So I've been following like the genetics for a very long time. And then when I moved back to Texas, right during the COVID outbreak, and everybody was locking down, Texas was a lot more free and open. So I got here and I started watching those videos again. And I was like, oh, wow, wait a minute. I should actually start doing these types of pairings. I looked into it and I was like, oh, this is definitely doable.
Right.
So I would say, when was the peak of COVID? Because it was like the Repticon during that time frame.
March 2020, I would say.
Was the peak of it? Wasn't it 2021?
20.
Oh, I should say when they first started locking down. So at the end of that year, it was about September. I went to a Repticon show, and Aaron Kingston, he's one of the guys in the chat, he was showing me two animals and he was trying to bundle them together. And he's like, these are clutch mates and you could make, this combo with both of them. I was like, wait a minute.
Right.
Put them together? What? And he's like, no, it's not the same as mammals. And the conversation went on from there. He made my head explode. And I went home and funny, I was watching the Bomb Projects one, and he actually was talking about Chris Hardwick. And me being a beginner, that was something that got me really hooked. And it created all these questions. I'd reach out to Aaron, then I'd ask him questions. He'd let me come to his facility and see all his crazy things at the back of the pet store.
Yeah.
And it all kind of exploded from there.
Absolutely.
And I was there for just a pet. I wanted a high contrast. I was going to buy one expensive, like maybe $500 snake that was so expensive to me.
Yeah,
and
right.
I said, and if I'm going to get one pet, it's going to be like really like, bright yellows and dark blacks and just crazy pattern, whatever I can fit within that budget. That's what I'm going to get. And then he sold me that pair, and yeah, he messed me up.
That was it. That's all it took.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to see Chris Hardwick get back on and start doing YouTube again. Like I was one of the ones that started out with him as well, learning and watching, and he's very intelligent.
Absolutely. And his format, for me, coming from like a marketing background or working with YouTube, just the fact that he would pick a gene, set it as his thumbnail, he'd find the best one, and then cycle through everything that pairs to it.
Yes.
That's essentially, after a while, I kind of graduated from like binge watching his channel, because you got to kind of learn on your own at a certain point.
Right.
But he gave me a good jumping off point of understanding like, oh, let's see what it looks like when you go with this gene. And he has like a rinse and repeat process that was genius.
Right. Yep.
So from there I got a morph market, and then I started doing like window breeding, and I would just pick a gene and pivot, and I'd find all the genes that look good with it. And then I'd say, oh, cool. What's this other gene? Oh, that's cool. Acid. Never heard of that. That's a crazy name.
Right. Oh yeah. How many clutches did you have your first season?
First season, I believe it was about, it was 7, but I worked with Aaron on a few clutches too. So I think that brought the total up to 9.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought a female specifically to work with them.
We tried and we just did not succeed this year, so we're going to try again next year.
So
Do you
I got a
remember
question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, man.
Oh, you're good. So, Corey, quick question. So with your YouTube, you said you're starting out YouTube. Is there like a certain format that you're going to try to go by? Because you got people like Brian who's doing a more educational standpoint. So, are you planning on branching out and getting more animals other than ball pythons, or do you want to keep it strictly ball python?
I really only like ball pythons.
Okay.
I have a boa constrictor. I have a corn snake, blue tongue skink in the house. When I was in California, I actually what kind of really started this in my first Repticon was in Sacramento. I went and ended up picking up a leopard gecko. And that was a cool little pet, but it was kind of like after like getting the husbandry right and learning about them and different things, that kind of stirred things. So when I moved to Texas and the ball python thing like took off, I started trying to check out other species of snakes. And I don't know. I think it's the handling and the way that they look. Though don't get me wrong, there are other species that have a better look, but they're humongous, like reticulated.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, do you remember what your first combo was
The first one that I produced
that you bought?
Oh, okay. So it was a pair of Orange Dream Firefly. So that was a pastel Orange Dream and Fire.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. Mine was a pastel fire yellow belly bongo.
Okay, you got me beat there.
Yep. But
it's cool to hear somebody else working with bongo too. That's awesome.
Oh yes, we love bongo, but we have a male and a female combo. So yeah,
not enough people work with it.
Yep.
I've got a handful of them, but I'm still trying to get it into my recessive projects.
So ask where at in Cali.
Okay, so Redding, California. So if for the longest time when I was in the military, I actually lived in Yuba City, which is south of Redding, California, but that's north of Sacramento. Then north of that is Chico, and then north of that is Redding. So there's quite a bit up there.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
What branch were you in?
You're welcome. I was in the Air Force, or some people call it the Chair Force.
My daughter too.
It was good though. I went in for computers, and people say, well, what did you take away from the military? And I say that it taught me how to pay my bills on time.
Yeah, and struggle to do that in that military pay, right?
Yep. Yeah. Well, they can garnish your wages if they go to your commander. I was never close to that, but I don't know. Just moving off base for the first time, your family's not anywhere nearby, so you got to figure this out on your own. And it was a little nerve-wracking, but you learn quick.
Right. Yeah. What are your expectations for your 2024 breeding season?
We acquired some really cool stuff in the collection here recently. I actually only had like one desert ghost animal, and I ended up acquiring somebody who's getting out. They said, well, if I sell my top project, I'm more convinced that I'll sell the rest of it and fully get out this time. And so we worked out a deal. They were awesome about it. They did payment plans and everything. I always thought they were going to say, nope, we're going to the next person. But she was like, I'd like to give you the same leg up that I had earlier on. So I ended up getting,
neat.
Yeah. So that was awesome. So right away, with it being on payment plans, we're in the middle of like breeding season. So I'm like trying to work out, well, if I pay off this much, can I get one at a time so that I can start doing my pairings? Didn't end up working out that way. They ended up doing the pairings. So while the snakes were coming in, I made my final payment, 2 clutches laid that first week. So,
wow.
Yeah, it did add some challenges because there were ivories in there. There were a lot of super pastels, not really what I was aiming for. But it really unlocked some things. It put me way ahead and that leads to what's the plan. I was wanting to eventually build up enough combinations within Desert Ghosts. And then from there, I wanted to add in and go the cryptic route. And one of the clutches that it was the first time that female was going to go, she popped out 2 cryptics. I actually have them here with me if you want to see them.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. You want to show off snakes? I'm in for that.
Where's Sammy? You gotta get your wallet ready, Sammy.
What's that?
I said, where's Sammy? Better get your wallet ready.
Oh, I know, right?
So we ended up producing these females. Let's see if it's going to.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. look at that head. Amazing.
And that's the thing, when you pointed out the head, it's very clown-like. But I don't know that I didn't know that there was cryptic in it. When I was buying it, it was just a visual female that produced this. And let's see, I'm getting the sister too. And this one is without pastel, but these are, they're both yellow belly desert ghost cryptics. I was just happy to hit visual desert ghosts. And then I popped these bad boys out. Well, these bad girls. And I can't wait. But these crazy patterns were happening. And the clutch before it, I had mostly hets from that one. And I couldn't figure out what was going on with that crazy head pattern that you saw in the last one. There was 3 snakes with that on there. And I'm just thinking, okay, a lot of super pastels. Okay, I didn't hit any ivories, so that one didn't prove to be yellow belly on that side. I'm doing all this figuring out, and I can't figure it out. And then the visuals came out, and I was like, okay, that happened again, except it looks way better in the visual. And my buddy Chris from Unique Scales, I'm sending him photos, and he's like, dude, you have cryptic. And I called him and I was like, are you sure? And I sent him like all these different photos. And he says, yeah, you've got that. Wow. So I always tell people I jumped about 3 to 5 years ahead by buying this Desert Ghosts project. And then we hit one of the ones that I wanted to hit. So the first year. So I would say next year, the goal would be to make more DG cryptic, but I have to make them with funny story. I was going to sell that male to a friend of mine. And he ended up backing out of the deal. And then I realized what I had. And I was like, I can't sell anything. I've got to test everything, genetic testing.
Yes. I hope you're using Charlie for that.
The one that you pointed out, was that Gray Rider, or is that a different one?
Gray Rider.
Okay. I haven't tried it yet. I haven't sent any tests off lately, actually.
He has wonderful turnaround time. He's a great guy to work with. And Stan has dubbed it. When Stan says it's show and sell time, we have to show and sell. That's just how it is. So if you have anything for sale, you want to show off, you're more than welcome.
Oh, here tonight? Oh, man. I should have grabbed more things. Everything's downstairs. I picked my favorites from this last year. But, this year, I would say that I think it's still going to be another year out before we hit the things that the targets that I've set for myself. But the way it works, I think with our with my projects are Ultramel, and then down there it's mixed with other recessives or lots of codoms, and so that would be cryptic or clown, and then any sort of codom I'm trying to steer away from what I call classic genes. Don't get me wrong, I think lesser and all those look good, but because I'm trying to make something new that I don't see when I'm surfing Morph Market and trying to work with, Bongo, I know is not like it's a bit older, but that would be like a good example of something that's different. It's something fun.
Yeah.
And
So what is your favorite dominant and codom?
It's kind of debatable with the whole Mandarin.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I picked one up from Canova and one from T.A.C.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about putting those together because they both are really high quality. So I'd say that would be one of them. I would say Confusion, Acid, Hurricane, Trick. It's hard to narrow it down, but ones that are just wild pattern or wild color.
Yes. I love the dark side. Anything dark. My husband loves the pods and stuff like that. I'm like, that's not my thing. So
see, that's how I am. I like anything with good contrast. So the VPI, Xanthic, stuff like that. Anything with solid contrast, I love it.
Those are beautiful.
High contrast. I got one for you.
Here we go.
Oh boy.
All right.
Oh wow. My gosh.
Pitch black. When this thing came out, I was like, wow, I'm getting really lucky this year. You can definitely see the yellow belly popping up on the pixelation on the belly, but it's just a pastel yellow belly Desert Ghost, and I'm going to test it for cryptic because it's flowing through my project.
Yeah, it looks like a lot on the back by the tail. It's a pretty wicked patterning.
My brother was here earlier, and he actually pointed this out, and he really liked it. It's this little
The 666 or the
Come on,
999.
come on. Yeah, see how it's kind of pulling down from the top.
Yes. Yep.
He likes that one.
And it's hooking. Oh, I love the little hooks.
Yeah. Super high contrast. Very excited about that. So it's another holdback female. Essentially, I'm showing a bunch of holdbacks.
Right. Kevin said, Gray Rider, the best turnaround time. Charlie is the best. Yes, sir, he is. Sammy said, not to worry. We have time to run downstairs and grab some more snakes and help each other. That's funny. Oh, man.
So Corey,
yeah.
what is your? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I started off with hypo, and that was probably my favorite recessive. And I was like, man, everybody's sleeping on this thing.
Mhm.
Now I want to put hypo into other things. So hypo's definitely, I have a lot of them in the collection, but a lot of them are kind of mixed in, whether it's ultramal or I was working a lot with hypopides. Hit those my first season. That was pretty amazing. Boy, does that make a pied look good.
So what's your most successful clutch so far?
I would say the one that I just showcased, that was the Desert Ghost Cryptic. I got the 2 females in there.
Mhm.
The male that I had that was in that clutch was essentially just a repeat of the male. So I sold him when I was in Waco, but he was very high contrast like her, but just, I would say like 5% less. So
Oh,
everything that's amazing is a female. So I'm cursed with having to wait, 3 years.
We're all
but
cursed on that, sir.
But when it comes to successful clutch, I've got a kind of a spinoff of that. A list was floating around, and I saw that there was a het ultramal for some decent price. And at the time, I was trying to stockpile on a lot of ultramal, and I noticed a little bit. It was like handwritten and everything, and it had said on there gravid female and what it was paired to. And that's where I started, my alarm started going off. I was like, wait a minute, why would you tell me the pairing? It doesn't matter. It's going to lay and you're going to give me the snake is my perception. I call him up, I vet him, and long story short, it's ended up being a cool friend of mine that I met out in Kerrville, Texas. He took a job that he had to leave out of town. He had already created like multiple visual combos. So I ended up buying a gravid female, and within 30 days had 4 visuals from that clutch. I now own both the parents too. I ended up buying the male several months later.
Very nice.
But yeah, I think I've never heard of anybody buying a gravid female. Everybody's like, that's crazy. They're leaving money on the table, but
Oh yeah.
circumstances.
It happens all the time.
And that list was out there well before I got my hands on it, but I jumped on it. I was like, oh yeah.
Right. How many clutches do you anticipate for 2024?
Keeping it kind of slow with the market being, as it is, and wanting to downsize because I'm, retooling as everybody seems to do. I definitely don't want to produce just way too many clutches. If I had a good thing going with somebody who did a lot more shows, because that's the thing too, is I don't want to be at shows all the time. I'd like to do a nice handful of shows and more bang for buck time wise.
I've heard they sell more on Instagram and Facebook than they do at shows or even Morph Market.
I need to start working with that a bit more. That's one of the main reasons I want to do the YouTube videos is just kind of the entertainment value, the education. I don't know. I'm just going to kind of flow with however the content comes out, and then craft what I'm going to do based off of what I'm enjoying. I've had, vlog channels, but they weren't related to reptiles at all. And you can burn out. So you've really got to find your niche and what you're actually interested in.
Right. Yep. So, do you breed your own rodents?
I don't. I'm allergic. So
Oh, wow.
I do frozen thaw.
Oh, okay. That was my next question. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, I've got some tricks there too. I'm all about the pro hacks. So if anybody ever wants to ask, what's a more efficient way of doing something with frozen thaw, I've got all the steps.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure trying to get the hatchlings and stuff eaten frozen thawed, I'm sure that can be a handful sometimes.
I more than most cases I have to feed live for the first few, but if I've only got a handful of live hoppers, I'll always try to then go in the next week and offer frozen thaw, and if they take it, we're good to go. And most of them do, especially snakes that I bring up. It's not a problem. It's I think our collection, the collection right now is at 95% frozen thaw. And then I've got a few stubborn snakes that have been with other breeders who, fed live. And that's a big ask to ask the snake to let me stand over you, put food in your face, and you accept it, versus the privacy of like a dark tub that gets shut and then they get to do their work. So I try to slowly convert that psychology one variable at a time when I get a new snake.
How much time do you spend in the snake room?
I would say at this point, 3 days a week, and that's usually for feeding. I would say 3 to 4 days because you've got to do spot cleaning and water changes and everything.
Right. How
It's
many
a little too
snakes
much.
do you have?
I think at one point we were at 180 here at the house. And
wow.
yeah, so sold down quite a few this last season, but that's the reason why I'm probably going to aim for 10 or 15 clutches this year, but it's more project based. Yeah. I'm not going to like before it was like, if people want to buy a bunch of Mojaves, hey, I can sell those too. But now it's at a point where I don't want to make anything extra. If it's a project based breeding, I'm going to do it.
Right. Yeah.
And then people can be in the project with me by buying the other animals that I'm not holding back.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. So what does your show schedule look like? Are you going to branch out from Texas or are you going to keep it pretty local?
I might do a few out-of-state ones just to give it a try. If like St. Louis opens up for NARBC, maybe I would do something like that. Yeah. I have heard great things about closer to like Colorado area. Mm-hmm. So I might give that a try, but there's nothing really on the plans for next year. It's more doing a few herp shows, doing the local Repticon because it's my hometown show, and then NARBC, they switched it to Dallas. It used to be Arlington.
Right. Yes, I'm actually really excited about that. I want to see how big that venue is. Hopefully there will be able to be more people there, more people set up, I've heard both. So I don't know.
I hope it's good because I would say that's probably my most nostalgic show was getting to go there for the first time just as a guest. Because I attended so many shows before I was actually even pairing. Got to the point where other breeders were like, when are you going to start booking your shows? You need to do those like a year out. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't know. I guess sometime soon.
Yeah. So have you been to any of the big shows like Tinley or anything just to go yet?
No, and I've heard mixed feelings about that one just because it's the comfort of Arlington or Dallas now versus Tinley and like how tightly packed it is. And I don't know, it doesn't sound too appealing. For the longest time, I wanted to go at least once, and I will eventually. But after I kind of heard, I finally started hearing the other side of it. I was like, oh, okay, it's not just the best show ever, but it's supposed to be.
I actually really loved it.
Okay.
We went. I went with Baker's group. We all kind of met up there, whatever, and going through it. I got the VIP pass, so I tried to get through it as fast as I could. The first, before the doors opened to everybody else, and then I knew, hey, I want to go back to this table, this table, this table. Because once the doors open, people start wanting to talk, and it gets crowded, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't. I need my space. So, but it was truly an amazing experience. It really was.
Like I said, I got to do it at least once. Can't just take it from what you hear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Make sure to go with some friends, meet some people up. They have an amazing restaurant right there beside, it's in the same building, kind of attached.
Actually, I'm probably going to go this year as attending it. I don't think I'd ever have the opportunity to vend it. That's the highest volume, probably the longest waiting list show you could get.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely hard. I know Adam from Proper Royals and Chris from BNS worked a table together, and the first day they were on the outside of even where you walk in, like into the room. They had to be on the outside. Well, then the next day something happened. I don't remember the story, and they got to be inside. And I was so glad because I think that gave them more foot traffic compared to like being in a hallway. Don't go with Holly. She makes you drink too much. Sir, no. Got to hang out with Mike and Kristen. Love them. They are amazing people. Really, truly are. And they're also one of my sponsors, y'all. Make sure to follow them. Let's see here. What else do we got? I have, man.
Well, while Holly's looking up questions and stuff, Corey, so what does your facility look like? What is it looking like? Is it, do you have any enclosures, all racks?
It's mostly racks. A few of the first snakes that I got, they were living in vivariums with all sorts of decorations that made me as a human very happy for them. But they would like to hide out. So the hides are their favorite thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But we kept those. I ended up keeping those two snakes in those vivariums for the first year. And then eventually moving those over to racks. But it was more of an experimental phase. So I had these two vivariums, and then I've got all the snakes that I bought that were, raised in racks as it is.
I'm going to run the sponsor video real quick.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, we're back.
So, Corey, touching back on what you said about how you moved the snakes from the vivarium to the rack, did you notice a difference in their feeding pattern? Because recently I've been doing a lot of research because I work with mainly false water cobras, and the guy, he's like the godfather of falsies, is Zach Loafman. He did a research on it, and so I'm curious to see what you found when you switched them over from the vivarium to the racks.
Those are my best snakes, so they may not be a good candidate. Those they have the best demeanor because they got way too much attention from me, because I think that they were relieved of being handled all the time when I had more animals.
Right.
So they got a break from me. But they're still, to this day, they're full size, and I go to pull them out, and you can just tell there's a whole different vibe to them. But moving them over, they were already used to me feeding them frozen thaw, and I think that plays into it as well. Zero issue. It was amazing.
Gotcha. Yeah, because he hit part of his research. It was just mainly to see, because even though he works mainly with false water cobras, it was mainly to kind of go towards the stipulation of ball pythons on whether or not they do better in racks or better in vivariums. And so he did, a split research of certain amount went in vivariums, certain amount went in racks, and then they did one big swap. And so it was cool to see the results that he had. It was almost split 50-50, half of them, did just fine. Half of them were like, whoa, what are we doing here?
I always find that interesting. I definitely would like to, I don't know if that's a YouTube video or something. I'd love to nerd out on that. But yeah, I do kind of go down that rabbit hole once in a while. But yeah, when it came to those, there was no difference in their demeanor or anything. And in a lot of ways too, I think that vivariums leave a big exposure, all the way around. I think that it depends too entirely on the context of how the vivarium is set up. There was a phase where, with leopard gecko, his tail was going wild, and eventually it was like, oh, let's just tape three sides with decorative paper or something so that it feels a little bit more enclosed. And then you learn about making the enclosure a lot more busy so that they feel a lot more safe. But I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've been playing around with my falsies, because right now I'm working with 3, and it's like all 3 of them have completely different personalities. And so it's like my adult, he, likes a wide open, real chill. He'll come out during the day. Then I have one that stays in the hide all day, every day. And then I have one that'll like peek out and, it likes the busy, type of vibe. So I have a whole bunch of, cork bark and stuff in there. And so it's really cool to see like the difference in like the personalities of these snakes.
I think something that I offered a good majority of my snakes just from the get-go was a hide, and I actually used that as a bit of a hack for snakes that are kind of apprehensive about me being there. If they can't see me, but I could put the rodent's nose just right inside the thing, bam, they take it in and they eat it in their little private room.
Yeah,
so,
and it's so cool to just see, like, it's almost like you haven't seen this snake in forever. Next thing you know, you stick a rat in front of the hole of their hide, and it just snatches at mine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to load a video real quick. Y'all go ahead.
And
It's Stan's video.
Oh, okay. But yeah, and so I've just always, liked being able to just do different types of research. That kind of is what drove me. It didn't drive me away from ball pythons, but it drove me more towards the diurnal snakes, just because, I'm more active during the day. So are those snakes. And so, they're easier to work with in my end, and they're just, all around, crazy snakes, crazy. And so
every time I think I'm going to get into like another species of snake, I'll see things that are just so cool. Like I think it was the Mandarin rat snakes.
Oh yeah.
I saw one with some really cool patterns on it, and wow, I started to like look into it. I was at the Waco show, and some guy with the table right next to ours had a bunch of hypo bull snakes, and I was so close to buying one. And then I held the animal, and it didn't work for me. I think that they're fantastic, and there were other people that were just all over it, and I don't know. I can't explain it. I enjoy holding the ball pythons.
Yes,
oh yeah, for sure.
There's something special about them. I'm gonna run this clip. I hope it's the right one, but I've got to run it. Okay, yeah, it's not the right one, but I'll go ahead and just say it.
So when you play the video, do we disappear, or are we just sitting on top of their video?
No, you disappear.
Okay.
But we're still doing the auction July 17th, I believe, for Stan and his wife. She's still battling cancer, and we're trying to raise some money for them. So if anybody has any donations they would like to make, it doesn't have to be a snake, it can be a sweatshirt, it can be whatever. Reach out to me. I'll gladly help you out to help them out. Make sure here. It is January 17th, yes. And I do not know why StreamYard has been acting so glitchy and kicking stuff off, and I'm like, oh. Yeah, Bobby said January. Oh no, Chris. He's talking about the I don't know if you watch Warful Morphs, but his auction with DM go ahead and help me out here.
DMT?
DTMG. There we go. Where he peed in the sink.
Oh.
What's the top 3 things you don't want to forget while vending?
For like a new person that's gonna start doing shows, well, I'll do some things that are small. Make sure you have a trash can.
Oh, okay.
You go to clean your enclosures, and then you're running for the venue's trash cans. So I started bringing the one from the reptile room, just a small one.
Right.
But let's see, the things you don't want to forget. Well, you don't want to forget your snakes. I'm trying to avoid all the obvious.
Right.
I think it would be more of a checklist. You find out everything that you gotta have and write it down, even if it's just handwritten. So I would say the checklist would be the thing you always want to have, because you can check before you leave that you have everything. And yeah, when you show up to the show, you're not empty-handed.
Right. Got one more.
Oh, okay. I would say power. Make sure you bring extra cables, extension cords, and power strips.
Baby time. Baby
Oh,
Tate.
baby time.
Baby Tate.
There he is. Oh, he's looking at
Isn't
me
he
funny,
just
huh?
wonderful? Oh,
Yeah, he's wide open right now.
yeah.
Surprised he's not crying now that I'm holding him.
So where do you see yourself 3 years from now? Like, are you still going to be doing just the pythons? Are you going to venture out to geckos maybe?
I think I'm just going to keep trying to level up what I have. I really just want to stack on things that are, I think an ultimate goal that I've always had was I want to make ball pythons that look better as they age. And as we know, that's kind of hard to work with here, but that's a big reason why I got into Desert Ghost. That's why I got into Hypo. They age so well. It's probably a big reason why I stayed away from Clown for so long. But once I started mixing it with the idea of mixing it with Ultramel, Hypo, Desert Ghost, I started adding it in. So I was pretty late on Clown.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just see myself stacking up multiple codoms into double recessive animals. There might be a few triple recessive projects. I've got some that are cooking up right now, but I don't know. I think that there's a lot to be done in just the double visual with multiple codoms.
Absolutely.
And just playing around. I think that there's not even enough codoms kicking around in even some of the single recessives. Ultramel has a lot of unexplored territory. Monarch, that's another one that I'm branching into, but I was late to it because it was expensive. Or did you end up getting a table for Conroe? I don't know. I need to check Facebook. I'm never on there. So I work in IT and started going down the cybersecurity route with a lot of my training. And I essentially just avoid Facebook like it's the plague.
Right.
So I'm really bad about, somebody might message me on there, and that's the herp shows. They all do the vendor page through Facebook. And I'm just like, okay, I got to get a secondary device that I can get on here that has nothing to do with me.
Yeah, I actually added you to my Facebook. I'm the same way though. I'll get on there maybe once a week just to check if I have any messages. and like you're still hadn't even opened my deal yet. And I'm like, oh, that's all good. And Hot Pockets, where's his comment at right here? Sir, whenever you start your show, I'll look at it and see how well it goes. So let's not talk about who's being lazy. That Will is an amazing person. He's so full of shit, though, honestly. So this is the one we talked about. What does your spouse feel about you being a reptile breeder, and does she help?
I would say helps to an extent, does the shows, but I think for the most part, it's just me doing the feedings and the cleanings and taking care of the animals. But I can easily hand off an animal and say, hey, will you hold that real quick? I got to take care of this or clean its enclosure. But yeah, it's mostly me.
Sometimes that's the biggest help somebody can give you. Just hold the damn snake.
Couldn't be me.
Yeah, not you. That they jump out at you.
Yeah, they want to bite my face off some days.
Right. What was the inspiration of your logo?
So the 3-directional, it's very similar to Back to the Future, the flux capacitor.
Okay.
And then there's some snakes coming out of it.
So what about the name, your company name?
That's all I'm saying. It's like the flux capacitor, so it's shaped like a T in the back of the Mandalorian, the DeLorean.
Oh, okay.
And so it's kind of modeled after that, and then it's got the snakes coming out of it. And so it was like, okay, then the word flux is kind of cool, and it's better than going with like smelly balls. With some people in the industry like to have these names that, I kind of wanted to come with a different approach to it. something
Right.
that sounded different. That was kind of cool. But the way to tie it in was like Hydra, because that's snake related, but not overused, I guess.
Okay.
So there's not like a deep meaning. It was just I come from a marketing background, and I come from being in all sorts of bands, and the band lists, the band name list is always this page of like terrible names, but then one stands out and two people like it. Then you go to the next one, you work through it. It's a lot easier to name your own hobby when there's no other people to bounce it off of.
Right.
Yeah, that's
You don't have a bassist who's like, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah. If money were no object, what project would you buy into?
Woo, everything.
The
Everything.
answer is yes.
Yeah. Oh man. Gorilla. That one.
Yes. Oh, I got to see it in person, dude. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you like Blackhead. Wait till you see a gorilla. Oh my God. That one, let's see.
419.
Stranger. Really want to work with Stranger. I remember Bryce has been working with it for so long. And then from SMS Morphs. And it's just, I don't know. I didn't really see the appeal, and he was, pushing it for a long time, kept the price high. Started seeing them in clown combos and how it looks in like these other dark combos. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I get it. This is killer.
Yeah, Baker's been doing a lot of Stranger stuff.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have been doing Stranger stuff. I started seeing a lot more of those at NARBC.
Mike, I like your way of thinking, sir.
Yeah.
Mike would be Canova.
Yeah, right. Yeah, mine would definitely be the gorilla. It would be like the scrambler. I would want to get in the Bang project. The Mandarin, which I'm blessed to say that one of my sponsors, Sammy, is giving me 2 of them, a male and a female. So, but definitely something that messes with the pattern a lot, and that it's going to make it darker. Like one of my favorite
Cosmos.
is actually Hurricane. Really?
I love Hurricane, but Cosmos, that's a crazy one. I'm already working with and acquiring a couple Sentinels and a couple of the people in my network. We kind of break things up. So a few of my closer breeder friends, they'll work with some animals, and I'll say, okay, well, here, I'm going to send you this and this. That'll elevate from this angle. And I don't know. I think what we try to do is we try to make the craziest animal that we can. And that if it works with the other people, if we've got a spare, it's like, all right, we're going to do like a 3-way trade. You pass your snake left and I'll pass mine right. And we go from there. So Sentinel's one of those. I think that one has a lot of potential. Just seeing a cryptic Sentinel kind of blew my mind. Yeah. So, but Cosmos. And so if money wasn't a factor, I would get into Cosmos. That one's crazy.
I'll have to look that one up. And you're right. Yeah, he's got some neat stuff. Pulling up I have one more question here, and of course I keep clicking buttons, and it's the wrong one because I have my damn glasses on.
Robbie from Merging Morphs is actually saying Stranger's about to be flooded like clown.
Yeah.
I think he's right.
So I don't know about you, but when people find out, we have snakes, breed snakes or whatever, they come up with the craziest shit to say, like, oh my God, you're going to hell. That's a devil. That's the devil. You don't need to be touching a snake. You don't need to do this. What is the stupidest thing somebody has said to you? And you're just like, okay, Becky.
I've heard worse, but the thing that came to mind was something more recent. Some mom was standing behind her son who was interested in some snakes on the table, and they were simple. It was like a yellow belly with some hets that weren't even worth listing because it was like maybe possible for this, but they were looking for a pet, and her whole thing was that not to buy a male because they're meaner. And so she told her son not to buy. Oh, it's a male. No, I have so much experience with animals and horses and all that. And, you never buy a male because they're really mean. And I was like, what the hell? I've got hundreds. I'll show you. I'll show you that it might be the other way around.
I would think it is the other way around, honestly.
Yeah.
And I
My
had
favorite
that.
is my
ahead.
favorite's always you always get the one person that tells you, oh, you ever heard the story about the one snake that laid next to the person and was
Yep.
sizing them up to eat them? And I'm
Yes.
like, come on, dude.
I was so
Yep.
relieved when I finally found something that was proved that to be false, and that was
Right.
just that one's really ridiculous.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
there's so many, and my mother is so against it. And she, every time I talk to her, you got rid of those damn snakes yet? It's like, no, I've had them for 3 years. I don't think they're going anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
And you need to find another hobby. Oh, there's a bunch, just from the one person.
Oh, and then for me, it's like you get the people, oh, are they poisonous? And I'm like, oh, mine are kind of venomous depending on how you look at it. And then they
Right.
start getting white-faced.
They're definitely
Yeah.
concerned about them getting out and like, oh, do they ever escape? And I don't think that that's a dumb question, but it's a common question.
Yeah.
And I say there was only one that got out, and it was because I forgot to shut the tub, and I found it, so it was fine.
That, and like you were saying, are they poisonous? No, that snake is not poisonous. There is not a poisonous snake as far as I know. They're venomous.
Yep.
But they're not poisonous. And you have to explain to people, you know, there are frogs that are poisonous. You touch their skin. Ta-da. You know. So, I don't know. That's what I've heard anyway. Blakers, you're late to the game. How you doing, though? Very late to the game. So, Austin, do you have any more good questions?
Let me take a look at my notes, see if there's anything that hold on, let me mute my mic real quick. We have a screaming child.
Okay,
all
and
right.
I'm gonna show off. I'm
Oh,
gonna see
you
if it
got
shows
more-
up on camera.
You got more to show off, y'all.
So we had a snake that was no. If you would have told me beforehand, I would have brought it.
No.
So I was holding back every single visual female ultramale because I'm just trying to build a whole rack of just visual females.
Uh-huh.
And I finally had a male that popped out. I was like, oh, cool. He's coming with me to Bryan College Station to be sold. And if you see the one right here, this is that male. He's not for sale. He stayed behind.
Mm.
I don't know what's in him. I'm going to get him tested. He's either got genetics or I am the luckiest ultramale guy. This is a little bit more standard. She was, you know, a little bit more vibrant when she was smaller, but this is typically the progression of just a normal ultramale. And then this bad boy popped out. And I mean, if you see the difference, it's insane. So I'm leaning towards he's probably got a codom, something in him. Maybe it's orange dream, maybe it's yellow belly. But I'm still pretty new with working with the identifying an ultramale is very difficult. What's that?
Do you think there's maybe inchy in that?
I don't think inchy, but I mean, just look at that color. Whatever it is, if it comes back from genetic testing that it's a codom, well, at least I've identified it.
Right. It's hard for me to tell, even with inchy. Sometimes I can tell, but like there's a lot of people who can really look at it and be like, bam, that's what it is. And
right.
I'm not that good yet.
I think there's a chance that it's yellow belly, but I'm also going to try to reproduce these again. So the problem is I did a dual sire and it was 2 visual ultramales to a het. And I got the female from Jim Sargent from Split Rock. And he sold it to me as a pastel het ultramale. So I'm also kind of got the radars, like spidey senses are going off that maybe it wasn't pastel, maybe it was a different gene. And so I'm going to get it tested. If it ends up that it's not a codom, which I'm kind of hoping for, because that would mean that my line of ultramale is just going to keep improving. And that's my thing is I didn't even want to get into ultramale at first because I was like, they're just kind of brown. And then I started seeing the snakes off Jim Sargent's table, and I was like, oh, I would like to get into ultramale, but not just ultramale, the best ones that he has available on his table. Like there were 2 side by side, and I would talk to him for like 30 minutes. I was like, I'm not crazy, right? Like this one looks even more rich. Right. So I ended up buying quite a few females from him. and started going from there. And every time I see one that's just like the next level of visual ultramel, I've been holding them back because I want to keep improving it.
Yeah.
Yep, he sure does. That's where he got his too.
Did the baby quit crying, Austin? Not the baby, but the kiddo.
She's still going. But so one question I have is like, you've mentioned you do like music and stuff outside of the hobby. So like, what do you like to do outside of the hobby? Like, do you have any other hobbies that you do on a regular basis?
Well, when I'm not tending to the snakes, it would almost seem that I have a hobby of building racks.
Oh no!
So I'm building a lot of enclosures. What's that?
So you build your own racks?
I build them out of melamine actually, and it's been quite successful.
Oh, that's awesome. I've been actually looking into it because I want to start building my own enclosures. Because, once my adults over here, once they get grown, they're going to need 6-8 foot enclosures. So that's a good chunk of change. So I figured I'd be better off learning how to build them myself.
I think it's time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get a circular saw and binge a lot of those homemade modern on YouTube, and it'll get you started.
There you go. And reach out to him. I'm sure he would have a couple things.
Oh yeah, I love giving out the pro hacks. I think the big difference for me was I went from putting the he's pretty popular on YouTube for his builds. All my builds were originally from Morph Mixology.
Oh,
okay.
Yes.
So he has a whole series of how to build those racks, and mine started off. I built the combo one, and then I'd grab tips from some of his other videos, and I started incorporating them. But I'm on like my third iteration of these melamine racks, and they're just getting better and better every time I make them. The big level up that's different from some of the techniques that other people do. It's pretty obvious after you do it, but I just cut a chunk of melamine that runs the length of the most of the length of where the tub would go. And I have 2 of them. And so instead of using the enclosure itself, the tub, and flipping it upside down and stacking it that way, I started getting these like leaning tower of Pisas, and I'd have to take it apart, start building it again. And so once I started using the spacers, oh man, that was a game changer. That really made a big difference. And I was able to start batching them out a lot quicker.
Okay.
And see, I did my rat racks from him also. So those videos are really good too. And if anybody has any questions about building one of those, I'm a professional at that now.
Speaking of that, if you're anywhere near the Louisiana area, I highly recommend that you go through Polar Rodents.
Okay.
They are, I'm saving so much money buying through them. I was buying locally, and a friend of mine reached out and he's like, hey, I got a friend who's going to be starting up a large scale rodent business, and they get shipped straight here on dry ice. So it's essentially, I've not done ARS, Freedom Breeder, and there's a couple other big ones. But they're a little bit more East Coast, I think. So this one was from Louisiana. So that I would put the order in on Sunday, and I would get them Tuesday morning. They were there pretty quick. But this last year was rough. I was spending so much money on frozen rodents, and then finally got with them. So if you go through there,
always helps to know a guy.
Yeah, so if you go to Polar Rodents and you use HF for Hydra Flux 10, you'll get 10% off. It's already super
looky
cheap.
there, y'all. Bam.
Yeah.
Shameless plug right there.
I'm trying to help you guys out. I don't really get anything from it, but it is. If anybody felt the stress that I felt, during I think it was the year before that, there was a shortage. So I have a deep freezer that I bought, just a mini deep freeze that I actually keep in my rodent room now, in my snake room. And I loaded it up. I actually front load how much I'm going to actually need. And then I just use the oldest rodents first. And then I start replenishing from behind. And yeah, so last order I ordered 800 rodents from Polar. And I did the math, and I got to a point where I was like, oh my God, I can't believe how much money I'm saving. I was spending almost 3 times that at one point.
Yeah, rats and fish I'm pretty set on, but I'm dreading because I'm about to have to put my first my Rodent Pro. I'm about to have to put my first order through them to get quail because I do fish, quail, and rats for my fall season. So I'm not looking forward to it.
Mm.
Have you considered raising them yourself?
I would, but working in law enforcement, I just don't have that kind of time on my hands, and so
Yeah. We breed our own rats. We went ahead and started doing, well, we've done ASFs too, but like two small colonies. We went ahead and bit the bullet and got a freedom breeder for our ASFs. So we're trying to go get out of rats completely because they're in our garage, right? And right across the walkway is my bedroom.
Ooh.
So, yeah. So, I mean, we keep it clean, but it's still, after a week and whenever it's time, like you're up to about 5 days, it starts smelling in the house. And I'm like, yeah, I'm over it.
Yeah, so with my heavy allergies and asthma, if I even go into a rodent room, I'm having reaction within no time. But with the way I do the frozen thaw, the water keeps the dander down. And pro tip, get yourself a sous vide and a little cage to catch so the rodents don't get near it. But for those who don't know what a sous vide is it's typically used for cooking. And you can set the temperature of the water bath that they're in. So instead of dumping out the cold water, put it back in, just doing that cycle. If you have a very small collection, I mean, maybe it's not worth it, but you can get them for like $40 off Amazon. But you throw them in there, do the water bath, and then just get a stack of towels from Costco, and that's all I do. So I drip dry them, towel them off, and then I set the temperature to where it's 105. I got that number from Garrick DeMeyer. I was watching his frozen thaw video, but he was using lamps, and he tries to get it up to that. But he was saying that a lot of people struggle with frozen thaw because they're not getting it up to the proper temperature. So once I did that, I could set it and forget it. Essentially, I'd go watch an episode of Netflix, come in, my rodents are ready to go, bam, 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 start feeding.
That's awesome. Bobby,
if you can keep them dry. Yeah. What's that?
Bobby had a really good question down here whenever you're finished.
Let's see. Disaster mining case, Texas gets frozen over again. Man, I am so scared of that. That my first year when I just had the pet snakes, that was a really scary time. And every winter, actually, that's the only season that I'm actually concerned is winter. Just because if that happens again. So I have a Generac, but I don't have like the standard Generac. I have one that I have to go out there, turn it on, but then I have the Generac wall switch and I can turn that on. And I made sure that the snake room, their belly heat is wired into that. And yeah, so.
Yeah. I hope we don't deal with it again. Last year we had one. We didn't lose electricity, but we've lost it. I had a clutch not my clutch, but a clutch in the incubator, and we lost electricity. But it come right back on within like 2 hours. And luckily I had the bottles of water in the bottom of it. And people ask me, why are those bottles of water? Like, why are those in there? This looks crazy. Is it, helping the moisture content? I'm like, no, they're closed.
Thermal mass.
But they do help with keeping the heat in case you do lose electricity. And they also help with if you need to add water to your egg box, right? It's already at temperature. So
that's true.
Everybody keep water in your incubator.
So my first incubator, well, I used it for 2 years, but I actually used the method that Blind Strike improved on from, who's the guy who does the dwarf reticulated pythons? Reach Out Reptiles, I think.
I have no idea.
Anyway, so he really experiments and does a lot of the DIY incubator modifications. And then Blind Strike ended up creating one with the cooler. I cloned his method of making that and had a really successful set of clutches. But the thing is, it was done with one of the really large coolers, and it's a water bath on the bottom. I'm starting to see a trend here. I do water bath for thawing my frozen thaw, and do the same for my eggs in the incubator. But it gave like the perfect amount of humidity because you don't actually put any water within the egg boxes, but you have 4 holes on the corners, and it sustained perfect humidity levels. In his video, there was like no condensation on the inside, but the little reader would say 100%. I wasn't so lucky. I think it's because I'm down in here in Houston, Texas. I would get condensation. I'd have to change the lids because they'd get a little too wet.
Yeah.
But man, I had so many successful clutches from that method. The only problem is every time you try to open the lid, the water's rolling out the back. It's just it's kind of a shit show. So I'm going to be switching to the more standard incubator this next season. I purchased one. I just little nervous to use it, but it's tried and true.
The Will Banks incubators, I want one of those too.
Oh,
yeah, they look so nice.
Yeah, if money wasn't an issue, I would get one of those.
Right? Yeah, exactly. That's funny. Well, let's see here. We're over an hour, man. If
Flies by.
If there's anything you want to talk about, I'm open. You know what I mean? If you've got somewhere to be, I understand that too.
Nothing off the top of my head. I'm just happy to be here, and we'll have to do this again because
absolutely.
Yeah, I think ball pythons or just anything to do with reptiles, it's kind of a bottomless conversation. It goes forever. Yes.
Absolutely. I can talk them all day. I love, getting phone calls, just like doing FaceTimes. Like I'll do backstages a lot just to talk about it. And, we're not on lives or anything. So anytime you want to talk, man, you can hit me up. I'm a talker.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I do. Most of the shows is when somebody comes to the table that actually wants to have like a conversation about things, and we can go a little bit deeper. We can get a little bit on the nerdy side, or what do you think this gene would do with this one? Oh man, I can't wait. I'm excited about this project. I really enjoy that type of topic.
Mike here says you should come on the Saturday show.
Okay. I'm definitely looking to do more podcasts too, because it's a good way to meet new people and network.
Let's get them in the lounge.
You have to be in the lounge. We just don't allow anybody. And it's a shit show, I promise you.
Oh, yeah. Certified shit show.
Certified shit show. But yeah, we can talk about it backstage if you just want to wait around. And
sounds good.
Close this. Ouch. Did y'all hear that I love having Great Danes.
Well, you have a horse behind you, Holly.
Yeah.
That's the small one.
My friend Martin's actually complimenting your dog.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's a super cute dog.
Oh, my. If y'all heard that really loud squeak a while ago, that was my Chihuahua. She sounds like a smoke alarm, right? So when I leave her home, I come home before I can even get in the door. I'm like, I am so surprised nobody's called the fire department yet. Because she's in here squeaking so freaking loud.
Just got to change the batteries.
I know, right? Oh, geez. All right, guys. Well, thank y'all for joining us. Don't forget, next week we have an auction with Hide and Joy. And she is donating 10% of her sales to Stan and Tiff. So that's awesome. So, all right. Well, bye, everybody.
See ya.
Let's see if I can find the outro video because I'm blind.